All right, have and have not fans, and this was a fan submission. I believe this was in the comment section of my trailer breakdown for next week's episode, Jimmy Crack Corn. And I have to say, this was a very fascinating theory, but I don't know if it's going to happen because I don't believe the actor who is playing Carlos will be back on the show anytime soon. I could be wrong, but as far as I know, I haven't seen anything confirming him back on set during the original filming of season 7 in 2018 or the reshoots back in 2019. But the theory goes, Jim, in order to save Jim's life, what if he needs a blood transfusion? And of course, Amanda's dead and his other son Wyatt's in jail. Well, his other child Wyatt's in jail, but he does have the two children by Celine. So with Carlos being, around Wyatt's age, what if he was the one who could save Jim's life? And he does it despite the fact that his father was never in his life except for when he was super young, but he could still remember Jim. And after that, he pretty much felt discarded in favor of, Wyatt and Amanda while he lived in the mansion. Now, I'm not going to really take the child support into consideration here because of the fact that even though Jim wasn't physically there in his children's life with Celine, he was paying child support. And I'm not going to get into this back and forth thing about Celine being a millionaire because she should. So again, I've already done a video, and this isn't a rant video. This is just me talking about this amazing fan theory. It would be very symbolic because of the fact that while the one son who was put on a pedestal and given everything that he wanted, he's the one that tried to take Jim's life, whereas the son that was kicked to the curb was pretty much the son that gave Jim life. Well, pretty much, you know what I mean, saved his life. But then that begs the question of what would happen next. And I don't think this is going to happen because honestly, it's just one of those things where we could reintroduce a character who we haven't seen in years while also adding some depth to the character who we've had around since episode 1. And I'm going to do another video right after this about my demeanor towards the show because there was one comment that really just stuck out to me and I got to address that in a separate video. But I think it will be very interesting to see the dynamic of Jim Cryer. Will he still be an arrogant son of a bitch? Excuse the language, but that's pretty much what Catherine and so many other characters describe him as. To have the one son who he really never gave the time of day save his life. And can you imagine what kind of great character development that will be if, let's say, Celine gets caught by David going to see Jim, and then she's removed from the room or whatever, and then David's there with his best friend because let's say Jim regains consciousness or whatever briefly, but then it turns out he's hanging on by a thread because he needs a blood transfusion and the doctors don't know what to do. And Celine, who was just discarded from the room, because let's imagine how will Jim react to Celine being in the room? We know that David wouldn't want her in there, but I want to know how Jim would react if she was in the room while he's conscious or whatever. So then it turns out that David, rushes out of the room trying to think of something, and then either Celine overhears the doctors or maybe she overhears David and says that I know who can save him, and it's like our son. And then she goes to Carlos, but then that could be even more further development for Carlos because of the fact that he could be angry, and it's like, why the hell would I try to save that man's life? He was never a father to me. But then let's say Celine, one of two things could happen, or one of three things could happen that could convince Carlos to actually save Jim's life. Number one, he will, I know this might sound wrong, but he'll do it for the sake of his little brother. Like he said on TV, he doesn't give a damn about, Jim being a father. To him, he's had his chance. He grew up fine, working for everything he has, so he doesn't care. But for the sake of his younger brother, for Jim to be a father to him, and that could be leveraged, like, hey, I saved your life, now you be a father to my little brother that you weren't to me. Option number two, Celine convinces him under the, Celine pretty much, tells the truth about the whole, well, your father didn't just throw us to the curb. I was working as their maid because I was thinking he would come back, but he also was paying all this child support as hush money. And then Carlos would be like, wait, what? Because remember, they live in the slums of Savannah. They don't live and like they don't even live in like the middle class area. But remember, Jim was paying like $30,000 a month or something like that. So basically, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves, like Jim was giving Celine like 30K a month. I forgot the exact amount, but go back to my video about is Celine secretly a millionaire, because it has all the details there. I did all the equations. Basically, Jim said that each month Celine was making enough money from him in terms of child support slash hush money. Like he could have taken that $29,000-$30,000 and paid a maid, and that would have been their annual salary. So basically, Celine was making in a month from Jim what Hannah might have been making at that other family's house she worked at, before the Criers, what she would make a year. So basically, all I'm saying is, what if Celine came clean about that money, and then Carlos would be like, oh, God, fine, okay, because I was angry all this time, but, he actually didn't turn his back on us financially, but he did emotionally. So he decides to save his life. Or option number 3, he just decides to do it because it's the right thing to do. That would be great. So I would, for the sake of character development, reintroducing older characters, that would be great. I'm not saying like, Jim has to transform in like one episode, because I love gradual character development, which is kind of iffy because of the fact the show moves at, only a couple of days a season. So take that for what you will. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I think this is an excellent fan theory, and just continue to comment on videos with things like this, fun what ifs. Well, not just fun what ifs, but interesting, thought-provoking what ifs. So I think that if Tyler Perry does something like this will be a great display of very, 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 very good writing. And I think the actors are more than competent enough to make it come to life on screen. So with that being said, make sure you leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. Hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any new content. I do have 199 things on eBay ending tomorrow. Yeah, within the next 24 hours. So I got a lot of bids. I do have enough for my tires, thankfully, but I still need to get about 170 more in order to get the piece for my car lock. So fingers crossed, by the time the auctions are done and shipping costs are taken into effect, I might have enough. So we shall see. With that being said, guys, hope you have a wonderful weekend, and be on the lookout for my next video.